Let me get to our guest in the studios, Dr. Katherine Pannel. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it very much. Ben, if we ever need a psychologist in a session, it is now. Looking. We were talking about some of these kids earlier, and I know we want to get off on something else. But do you believe that a lot of these children, and I'm talking about a case where we have, and this is multiplied in different places in the country, where we have young people who are actually exhibiting some anti-Semitic tendencies by speaking out for Hamas in some of these schools, but do they really understand and grasp the entire situation there, or is it just an avenue for them to rebel?
I think you've probably got a combination of both. I mean, it's not an easy situation to understand. I can't imagine our youth really fully understand it. And, you know, I think the onus is also on their parents to teach them respect for everybody, you know, equal respect for everybody, value life. And also, I mean, kids can be attention-seeking at times. You wonder if part of this is just to get attention. Yeah.
I think we kind of wrapped this up in a bow, too, when we started talking about last week and this week, when you have that generation of coming out of baby boomers, and even the baby boomers and their kids teaching their kids that, you know, you're not going to spank you, we're not going to discipline, we're just going to sit here and talk to you, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and it permeated over into the elementary schools, into middle schools, high schools, colleges, and now we've got grown people out there who are acting like children when it comes to road rage, when it comes to being Karens, when it comes to handling their rage, and I don't think they know how to do it, and they are ending up in a worse place. And another place you see this is with police officers and confrontations, from traffic stops to stops at Walmart and places like that. It's just by the thousands that are put before us every single day on social media.
Right. I mean, respect for authority is learned at home. And again, the onus is on the parents to teach their children that you have to respect authority. And unfortunately, I feel like we're in the generation of the helicopter parent, where parents are scared to upset their children or, you know, hurt their feelings. But we're not there to be our friends. We're there to be their parents and guide them.
I think some parents look at it this way. I want you to love me, so I don't want to. But if this is the thing that's going to make them not love you, then they don't love you in the first place.
That's right.
If you don't, it's actually counter to that. A kid that just naturally and instinctive needs and wants, even though they wouldn't tell you that, some type of discipline, and it's like the guidepost for them.
Right. I mean, I tell my kids all the time that they may not like the discipline, but if I didn't care about them, then I wouldn't.
That's it.
You know, that attention, whether they don't like it, I mean, they don't like it, but it's because I do love them and I want to see them successful. And if I didn't care, then I would just sit back and watch them make the mistakes. Yeah,
my parents were very, very smart, even though they didn't have a college education. They said, this is going to hurt me more than you.
Exactly. And it's true.
I'm not sure they were right. Yeah, it is absolutely true. And if it doesn't, then you enjoy it. You've got a problem.
We have a whole different issue at that point, right?
Yeah, you need to seek help immediately. Why is it so much more difficult, and how do you handle it this time of the year?
You know, we've got a lot of things that kind of stack on each other this time of year. You know, we've already got, you know, those that struggle with this dark time of the year, the seasonal affective disorder. So you've somewhat got the blues anyway. It's darker, days are longer, colder, so you stay in more. But then also the holiday brings a lot of stress. You know, people that have mental illness, they report that about 60% actually their mental illness gets worse during the holidays. And it's just because there is so much holiday stress and pressure. And we put that pressure on ourselves. You know, we think that the holidays are going to be that Hallmark movie. We have these huge, lofty expectations, and they're just impossible to meet. And so there's inevitable disappointment in that.
Does it ever overwhelm you?
Oh, yeah. And I just had my trial run through Thanksgiving. I found, you know, things that were stressful for me that I hope maybe I can get better control of during the Christmas time so that I can actually, you know, enjoy the holiday season. I find myself this time every year kind of dreading the holidays just because all the stress that comes along with it. But, you know, I'm in my 40s. I've done this many years. I should know now what my triggers are, what my stressors are, and start planning now to avoid those so that you don't get to the point where you are overwhelmed and miserable during the holidays.
What's the latest on setting a pattern, by the way? If you do this and you get your mind to go the way that you want it to, is it 21 days or what? Or is it different for different things?
I think
in other words, to stop smoking compared to changing a bad habit.
I mean, I think it's just repetition. I think, the more repetition, the more it becomes a habit, the more it becomes normalized, and you don't even recognize you're doing it. But like speaking of smoking, and people that are struggling with substance use disorders, whether it be alcohol or other drugs of abuse, I mean, this is a very, very tough time on them as well. We see a lot of relapse during this time because of the pressure or because of their environment they're in, and a lot more increase in overdose deaths during this time as well.
What's your recommendation? How should they just lay the groundwork and begin to understand this is what I've got to do starting right now to face this holiday season? Right.
Start first with having healthy expectations and know that it's not going to go perfectly. Nobody's holiday does. Again, it's not like that Hallmark movie. It's not Rockwell. Know that know what to expect. It's not going to be perfect. And then, boundaries are very important during this time. And it's not just like boundaries with social functioning. It is okay to say no to some social functions. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're tired, it's okay to say no. You don't have to go to everything. But also setting financial boundaries. I know this one's a tough one for me because I want to give my kids everything they ask for. I want to make sure they have the perfect Christmas. But the fact of the matter is they're going to be happy with you on Christmas. So set those financial boundaries. Know that you have a budget and don't go over that so you don't add to financial stressors. And then taking breaks. I know that was pivotal for me this Thanksgiving. After lunch was done and my family was, doing the dishes, I went and took a nap. So know that it's okay to step away for a little bit too.
Well, and we can't do anything about it because of the Thanksgiving. The calendar gods have placed Thanksgiving so close to Christmas, and it's almost like we start at Thanksgiving and we don't stop after that. Well, we actually start months, probably weeks before, worrying about Thanksgiving and the family get together, and then it's on from there all the way to Christmas. That's a long stretch period.
It really is, and that's where breaks are so important. You've got to take breaks and try to stick to a schedule as much as possible. One of the main reasons we get anxious is because we lose control over things, but your schedule and being organized, that is something that you can control, and that gives you that sense of control and lessens anxiety too. So trying to stick to your schedule. I know it's hard with holiday travel, but as much as possible, even when you're away, exercise, get out of the house.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because if you don't belong to an exercise or a gym or something like that, and you see that benefit when you go out and walk in a park, but it gets too cold, and et cetera, maybe joining the gym now is a good idea.
Yeah, and all of us have a smartphone at this point. You can go online and do videos, whether it's Pilates, yoga is great for meditation, mindfulness, for your anxiety. Yeah. Just go online and find a like an exercise regimen or something. I mean, it's really easy to find. Like, there's really no excuse not to get some exercise in your day.
I want to talk drugs. It was an amazing story in the news this morning that we mentioned a little bit earlier. President's National Transportation Board says something to the point of we've had 12,000 people die because of speeding. So he's looking at cars of the future, putting a mandate that says they can't get over a certain speed, even if you have a Ferrari. And I thought, okay, what about the thousands of people who are dying from fentanyl? Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that. Back to our interview with Dr. Katherine Pannel. When we're talking about fentanyl, he's so worried about people dying in the speed, going too fast in a vehicle, and we've got so much fentanyl coming across the border. Lance, as a matter of fact, and I think I still have it, Lance, sent me a map of where this fentanyl comes out. I'll send it out on X in a moment or two, but it's not getting any better at the border or in the state, is it?
It's not. We're actually looking. We hit another record. It was over 111,000 overdose deaths from April of 22 to April of 23. So another grim milestone. Definitely not getting better, getting worse, actually. And now we've got
111,000 deaths.
Yep.
Is this attributed just to fentanyl?
Well, this is overdose deaths, but it's driven largely by fentanyl. And we're also seeing a huge increase in the xylazine-related deaths. I think it's up like 35 times the xylazine deaths. Yeah.
Do we know if those strips have helped out at all? Apparently, you can't see it in the
Well,
in those
and I
statistics.
think it's too early to tell, especially in Mississippi. We just started being able to really talk about them in July, legally talk about them being accessible in July. So I think that the data is going to have to catch up. But, it's distribution. We got to get them out there. We got to get people educated. But I can't imagine that it won't help the numbers.
Is it still a lot in the college towns, or is it just spotted all over?
It's heavy in the college towns, yes. And I think that's because drug dealers know that that's where their customers are, and that's where they flock, unfortunately, to our impulsive college students. Yeah.
You recently went to the AMA, and were there any big headlines coming out of that convention?
Yeah, we went, the Mississippi delegation went to the AMA interim meeting in National Harbor, D.C., and lots of good work done. They have hundreds of resolutions. Some it's like a legislative session, and just very few get passed. But I think the big, overwhelming message from the interim is fixing Medicare payment and having Medicare payment reform. Medicare payments haven't been adjusted in several years. So without even a cut, we've been cut 26% of our payments just because it's not been adjusted for inflation. And now we're looking again in January of having an over 3% cut. So this is not just doctors wanting to, save payments for getting rich. This is doctors needing to keep their clinics open and being able to see Medicare patients. These are our parents. We will be having Medicare someday. And we have to have doctors that are able to see us, to keep the lights on, the water going, and feed their families, and so that they can still see Medicare patients.
If we solve that one thing, what would that do for the hospitals out there? Does that matter?
Well, I think you would definitely see a decrease in ER admissions. I think you would definitely see decreases in inpatient admissions, because if you get better care outpatient, have more access to good quality care outpatient, more physicians taking Medicare, you keep them healthy and out of the hospitals.
Was that the only thing that happened there, or is there other things that you wanted to talk about?
No, there were some great, a lot of good mental health resolutions on, parity in mental health treatment, making sure that we are, covering mental health insurance, paying for mental health treatment just as we would any kind of physical health issue. Interesting, we did see a lot of marijuana resolutions now, that we're seeing a lot of states that have adopted medical marijuana programs and are starting to see the negative fallout. Oklahoma specifically brought a resolution forward to make sure that the FDA was putting warning labels on marijuana products, as you would like on tobacco products, because they were seeing there's 70% of dispensaries in Oklahoma are treating first trimester pregnant women with medical marijuana for nausea. So, if we're going to put it on, cigarette cartons, there should be some kind of warning on marijuana as well, because we've now named it medical marijuana, and it seems the general public thinks it's safe, and it's not.
Doctor, the states that need it less, it seems like, are doing things that are just incredible. When you hear Illinois is the latest to go recreational marijuana, it's just, what are you thinking? What possibly could you be thinking?
Nothing positive.
I just posted this on X, the map I was talking about. There is some traffic in India that circles around India and heads up to into China. But for the most part, 90% of it, 95% of it is manufactured in China and directly sent to the United States. A couple of points in Canada, in that area, maybe Alaska, I'm not sure. No, I think it's in Canada or British Columbia. But all of it's in the United States of America, in the heart of America, or down to Mexico. But one way or the other, China says it will cut back on this if we did this and that. And I thought, if you can cut back of it, you can stop it. But it's almost like just a acknowledgement that we're sending this to the United States of America to do all we can to disrupt and kill you.
Yeah, and we know that. We know where it's coming. We know where it's coming in. It's going to take a all-hands-on-deck approach. We're going to have to stop the supply coming in. We're going to have to get people better educated. We're going to have to increase harm reduction efforts. This is not going away. It's getting worse, and it's not just a one-pronged solution. Like, we need everybody, all hands on deck, trying to get this under control.
Well, how can you do that if you don't have if you don't have the commander in chief stop it, do what could be done at the border? You can't. We're fighting against him.
Right, and that's why harm reduction is so important right now, because we aren't stopping the supply. The supply is here; it's not going away. So we've got to figure out now, like, how do we immediately stop deaths? And that's with naloxone and testing strips, because as you said, we're not stopping the supply effectively.
No, I got into a rabbit hole yesterday. I was watching this. One of the channels, Discovery Channel, I think it was, on smuggling at the border. And they stopped this transport truck. It had literally, and I'm not over-exaggerating here, probably had 100 to 200 5-gallon plastic buckets. That's a lot. And it ran through the machine. They came through there at the last 30 minutes before that checkpoint closed. And they did that intentionally because they figure the guards are tired. They want to get home. They ain't not going to do this. And they ran it through that, and they did stop them, and they did hold them, and they started looking at this thing. They stayed there half the night. They had to go through hundreds of 5-gallon buckets filled with coconut oil that, of course, had congealed. It was solid. And in about every fourth bucket, it was a top layer of coconut oil and methamphetamine for the rest of it. And of course, it was unbelievable the amount of effort they had to do with loaders to get these crates of buckets off. So these people are smart, and they're not stopping.
That's right, and they're very resourceful. They, you stop one way of them being able to get it in, they come up with another. You stop one, you get fentanyl under control, they come up with Zalazine. So it's never ending, and that's why I said it's just going to take everybody to get this under control.
Yeah, one of the other ones too, and I saw this was, and this was also on fentanyl, and it was a tremendous amount of money in cash of fentanyl, where they X-rated the whole truck. They pull the stuff off, all the products inside. They X-ray the products again, and there wasn't anything they found. So the guys were smart enough. They've seen it all. They've done it all. They went back and looked at the truck, and it was in the floor of the bed of the truck. So they pulled up the boards and found out that's where it was.
And that's what's so scary about fentanyl, too, is it just takes a very, very small amount to kill a large amount of people. So it's so easy to hide.
All right. Real quick before we let you go, just one more time, some good tips on how to handle the realization that it's not Currier and Ives, it's life, it's going to happen, and if you face it, you're going to come out better. Meditation, relaxation, realization, what else?
Yes, realistic expectations, don't forget your boundaries, and take breaks.
Walk in the woods.
Yes, if that's what it takes.
But remember to
bring
turn
a coat.
around and come, bring a coat and remember to turn around and come
That's
home.
Right.
That's it. We need you at home. As always, thank you so very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I love being on. Thank you.
And you do a great job, and we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.